So welcome. We're right here in the heart of the studio today. We thought we'd give you a little different background because we're talking about something that's a little different. And I hope that taking a few minutes to explain something that is rather complicated, it has been for us, and communicating it has been complicated. And so we decided we'd come back to this tried and true Bev video to try to walk you through the recently board approved merit pay bonuses. Those will be paid on December 16th for everyone who's eligible for them. And so I'd first just like to thank our finance department under the leadership of Carrie Crutchfield and our human resources department under the leadership of Matt Dixon, who have really done the heavy lifting with thousands of employees who will be eligible for this merit-based bonus and getting that programmed and ready to go so that we are able to get those bonuses out before the holidays. I'd also like to thank our school board because, as you're going to see as I jump into my charts here in just a minute, the state gave our district $647,145, which seems like an incredible amount of money when you look at it, but when you look at how many employees we have who are eligible for that, how we award that became rather challenging for us. I do want to say these are state dollars. The legislature approved them in the last budget, and they can only be paid to people who are paid by state dollars. And so obviously we have employees who are classified employees that are paid from federal dollars and are paid from local dollars who are not paid from state dollars. And so the second really big thank you here is to our Board of Education that said, well, it's not fair to just pay state-paid employees. We need to make sure that these bonuses apply to all of our employees. And so your Board of Education is dipping into their local funds and has approved these bonuses for all of our classified employee groups, no matter where their pay comes from. And so if you look at the sheet that you can find online on our website that gives you all the details and the cash amounts, which I will not go into here, you will find at the bottom of those sections where these are paid from. So whether they're paid from state, local, or federal dollars. But this is the state amount that came to our district. The law specifically says it has to be used for non-instructional positions. And interestingly enough, the legislature defined that as everyone but teachers. So this does not apply to teachers or anyone who is defined in the law as a teacher. So a counselor, a social worker, a curriculum coordinator, or instructional facilitator. In our district, even though the law did not remove administrators as non-instructional, we did, because our administrators had been on a 3-year salary schedule that was approved several years ago, and so we felt like administrators had some increases, and we wanted to take them out of this pool to be sure that as much of these dollars went to our classified employees as was possible. The other thing the law said is that these funds had to be merit-based, and we've heard from lots of you who've said, we just think you should take the money, divide it up equally, and give everybody a certain amount, even if it's just $150. And we appreciate that team spirit, but the law does not allow that to happen. The law says to local boards of education, you need to create criteria for merit, and you need to give the bonuses based on some level of merit. These are also one-time, and there's no retirement reduction taken from these funds, so when you get them on December 16th, you'll see some tax pieces that apply, but you will not see a retirement reduction from the bonus check. Now let's flip into this a little more. There are some common factors for all of the folks who are eligible. One of those, this being merit-based, is that you have to have had acceptable or better evaluations since July 1, 2014. Obviously, we can't go back, and people have an opportunity to grow and change, and so we used July 1, 2014. So that's where a lot of the heavy lifting I talked about. We've had to really hand look at people's evaluations for the last 2 years. So acceptable or better evaluations, and no negative write-ups from supervisors. So if you had an acceptable or better evaluation, but you had a letter of reprimand or some write-up about performance, then you will not qualify for the merit-based bonus. We also felt very strongly about longevity, and while I mentioned just a minute ago that we appreciate that rah-rah spirit about all for one, let's just split this up equally, as a district we feel very strongly that people who have been here for long periods of time deserve to be recognized for that, and that there is merit in that. So in looking for a factor other than just an evaluation, we felt like the length of time that people had worked in the district was an important component. So now what I want to do is dive into the sections you will find in the handout that was approved on November 29th by the Board of Education. It is up on our website. It's been sent to all the buildings and to all the department leads, so if you would like a copy or you need one, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. We'll be sure that you have it. That handout breaks this information out into some big chunks or blocks, and I just want to spend a little time on each of them. The first block is rather generically called classified personnel, and it pretty much applies to everybody that I don't mention or that you don't see singled out on the handout. We have some groups that are singled out, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. But if you're not singled out, you fall here. You're in this classified group. You must have been hired prior to July 1, 2014. You must be currently working in that classified position. And again, this applies to everyone unless I mention you in just a moment. Those are broken out based on years of experience. So those people who've worked here longer will get a higher bonus as long as they have acceptable evaluations and no write-ups from their supervisors. All right, now diving into those sections, our teacher assistants. We made a very strategic decision about TAs, and so one of the questions we've had is why can TAs in high growth or meets growth schools get a higher bonus than pretty much any other category here? And one, we felt that TAs are closest to the classroom, and during our rough economic times, more so than most any other group of employees in the district, have borne the reductions. So the state has reduced teacher assistant positions dramatically since fiscal ~09. And in our own district, that meant a loss of 10 contract days for all of our teacher assistants, which is a $4,000 to $5,000 reduction in their annual pay. And folks here did that out of that team spirit because it allowed us to keep more TA positions. By shortening the contract length, we were able to keep more people employed full-time. So the highest bonus option goes to TAs, and that's why. Closest to classroom and have borne the brunt of economic factors over the last 7 to 8 years. We are using high growth, and that of course is based on last year's data. And so if you weren't employed here or working as a TA prior to July of 2016, that data doesn't apply to you and you would not be eligible for this bonus. Why did we look at growth? I know there have been some questions about different schools in the county and ability to achieve growth, and the way that growth is calculated, all schools have equal opportunity to reach growth or high growth. So a proficiency level or a challenging school population is not a negative factor. In fact, in some cases, it gives schools a broader range of opportunity to grow. So again, we're not using proficiency scores here. We're using whether a school made growth or high growth. One of the examples I like to share here is that in our district we have 11 priority schools. They are determined by the state of North Carolina as being in the bottom 5% of all schools in the state based on their proficiency scores. 2 of those schools made high growth, and they are not in the state's definition of low-performing schools. So even though by proficiency they are in the bottom 5% in the state, they are making huge gains. And one of those schools is one of the 2 high schools in our entire county that has made high growth 2 years back to back. So I just want to illustrate that this is achievable no matter where folks are. If you are not in a school that made high growth or growth, you still will receive a bonus if you have acceptable or better evaluations and no write-ups from your supervisor. So if you're not in one of these schools, then you go back to that big classified block and you will still receive a bonus based on longevity and evaluation. So our next group are bus drivers, and let me say that our board listened to the feedback from bus drivers. They were concerned about the $300 being tied up in perfect attendance, and since we already have an attendance incentive, the board changed that to a flat rate bonus. So how this works is that all bus drivers qualify in that first block, the classified block. So based on acceptable evaluations and longevity, you will get a bonus here. And then if you also have acceptable evaluations, you will get a flat $300 bonus on top of that. Again, there was a need to recognize our drivers here. We've struggled for the last couple of years with filling vacant bus driver positions. And while the very thoughtful and respectful feedback that we got from our drivers at one of our school board meetings was that they thought everybody should get the same amount, we just felt it was important to honor the really hard work, the challenging role of our drivers, and be sure that those folks who've been with us for years received a higher merit bonus. Again, you should have been hired before July 1, 2014 to qualify. The last category that is singled out is child nutrition, and the reason for that is that child nutrition by law has to be self-supporting. And so this is clearly one of the categories where the state monies don't apply. Neither do the local dollars or the federal dollars that I mentioned. Child nutrition, because it's a business center and it creates a margin of profit when it's successful, and ours is generally very successful, uses those dollars to stay in business. So just like a private business, the amount of bonus that they can give their employees is based on how well they have done. And so these are higher percentages. They are paid from child nutrition funds. They're higher percentages largely because most all of our employees in child nutrition are hourly employees, and most of them are not full-time. The bulk of our folks who work in child nutrition work anywhere from 3.5 to 5 hours. And so the percentages are higher so that the bonuses can be meaningful and helpful to those folks who work in the child nutrition department. Also, because they're paying from their own funds, our child nutrition department wanted their hire date to be prior to January 1, 2016. They have also added an attendance bonus, and that will be in effect for the second, third, and fourth quarters of this school year. It's $50 a quarter, and it will be paid in the pay after the quarter ends, obviously, but those will be intermittent throughout the rest of the school year. The bulk bonus will be paid on December 16th with all other classified employees. So just to remind you again, this will be paid on December 16th. Some of our folks are 12-month employees and their December check doesn't come until the end of the month. They will get their bonus check on December 16th. Everybody who is eligible will get their check on December 16th. Very important to your administration and your school board that people have this bonus check before the holidays. Again, the draft with all of the numbers where you can really go and look. Now, I was hired before July 1, 2009. Here's what the percentage will look like for me, what the dollars will look like for me, is on the website. I encourage you to go and check that out. Also, just want to make sure that people understand that if you don't qualify based on this merit criteria, you will not get a bonus check, and we hope that folks will know, and this gives you a little window of time to look into that and check to make sure before these are processed and out to folks on December 16th. So I hope this is helpful. I hope it's a way to clarify what has been very complex for us, and we hope that folks will understand we've tried to be fair. We've tried to touch as many of our employees as possible by adding child nutrition funds, local funds, federal funds, to ensure that anyone who would qualify will receive this nice little addition on December 16th.